Ruy Lopez.
e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5.
This section deals with the two systems. 1. Jaenisch Gambit. 2. Archangelski variation. Jaenisch Gambit.
e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, f5.
This gambit was introduced into practice by the Russian master Jaenisch. It is quite a rare continuation in the Ruy Lopez, however, it leads to a full-fledged struggle where black has good counter chances. In modern practice, black implements it in those cases when he is trying to avoid the Spanish torture of the main classical variations of the Ruy Lopez and strives for sharper play.
f5.
The following continuations are quite harmless for black.
E takes f5, e4,
and
bishop takes c6, d takes c6, knight takes e5, queen d4, knight f3, queen takes e4, check, queen e2.
Whilst the position occurring after white sacrifices a piece.
d4, f takes e4, knight takes e5, knight takes e5, d takes e5, c6, knight c3, c takes b5, knight takes e4, d5, e takes d6, knight f6.
Is also considered to be satisfactory for black.
d3.
One of the most tranquil variations of the Jaenisch Gambit. White is not trying to refute his opponent's aggressive strategy right away. Instead, white wants to smoothly develop his pieces.
F takes e4.
After the white pawn has taken the e4 square under control, black must reckon with the possible capture e4 x f5, so he discharges the pawn tension in the center.
D takes e4. Knight f6. Short castle. d6. Knight c3. Bishop e7. Bishop c4.
White tries quite naturally to hamper black's kingside castling by weakening the a2-8 diagonal.
Bishop g4. Bishop e3. Queen d7. a3. h6.
So long as black controls the semi-opened f-file, he prepares some activity on the kingside, including a g7 gram5 advance. Meanwhile, the black king finds itself quite comfortable in the center because the position is closed.
Bishop e2. g5. Knight d2. Bishop e6. Bishop c4. Knight d8.
The black knight is ready to be transferred to the d4 square after the possible exchange on e6, while the black c-pawn can control the d5 square from c6.
Queen e2. c6. Rook a d1. b5. Bishop b3, knight f7, rook f e1, h5, knight f3, rook g8.
With a strong position in the center, black can start a planned attack on the kingside.
Rook d2, bishop takes b3, c takes b3, queen e6, b4, knight g4, rook c2, knight takes e3, queen takes e3, g4, knight d2, bishop d8.
By this outstanding maneuver, black engages his bishop in the kingside attack.
Knight d1, bishop b6, queen e2, king d7, knight e3, h4, knight d f1, g3.
The maneuvering part of the game is over. Black opens up files on the kingside.
F takes g3, h takes g3, knight takes g3, rook takes g3, h takes g3, knight h6, queen d3, knight g4, rook c5, rook h8, knight takes g4, queen takes g4, rook f1, king e7.
0-1, Nezhametdinov Rashid, Holnov Ratmir D, Baku 1961 CHURS.
F takes e4, d takes e4, knight f6, short castle, d6, knight c3, bishop e7, queen d3.
A standard maneuver in positions of this kind. The white queen's possible transfer to c4 will create unpleasant pressure along the A2-8 diagonal, as well as a threat for the c6 point.
Short castle, queen c4, check. Bishop g4, h3, bishop takes f3, queen takes f3.
By exchanging his bishop for the knight, black diverts the white queen from the c4 square and obtains an opportunity to complete development. However, white obtains a small but steady positional advantage thanks to his two bishops and the potential weakness of the light squares in his opponent's camp. Black's counter chances are to use the semi-opened f-file and by preparing the knight f6 h5 f4 maneuver.
Short castle, queen d3, king h8, bishop e3, queen e8, knight d5, bishop d8, c3, queen g6, f4, e takes f4, knight takes f4, queen takes e4, queen takes e4, knight takes e4, knight g6, check. Queen e8, Rook A E1. Knight E5. Bishop takes E8. Knight takes D3. Knight takes D3. Rook takes E8. E5. D takes E5. Bishop D4. King G8. Knight takes E5. Bishop E7. Knight C4. Knight D7. Knight A5. Bishop C5. Bishop takes C5. Knight takes C5. B4. Knight E4. Knight takes B7. Knight takes C3. A3.
Holnoff R. 2420, Tat IS. 2352, Budapest 1979.
Queen D1. King H8. Bishop E3. Queen E8. Knight D5.
A crucial move in this system.
Bishop D8.
A standard method of defending the black c7 pawn. Now black is fully prepared to transfer his knight to h5.
Knight takes F6.
After exchanging the black f6 knight, black's chances on the kingside diminish significantly.
Bishop takes F6. C3. Queen G6. Queen G4.
A typical method. As a rule, the two bishops are more efficient in the endgame than the middle game.
Queen takes G4. H takes G4. H6. G3.
The rest of the game is a classical example of using the advantage of two bishops in the endgame.
Bishop G5. F4. Bishop F6. King G2. Rook F E8. F5. King G8. Rook H1. King F7. Bishop C4. Check. King E7. Rook H5. Knight D8. G5. H takes G5. Bishop takes G5. Knight F7. Bishop E3. Rook H8. Rook A H1. Rook takes H5. Rook takes H5. Rook G8. King F3. A6. Rook H7. Rook H8. Rook takes H8. Knight takes H8. King G4. G6. F takes G6. Knight takes G6. King F5. Knight F8. Bishop H6. Knight D7. G4. Bishop H4. G5. C6. G6. Knight F6. G7. D5. E takes D5. B5. D6. Check. King takes D6. Bishop B3.
1-0, Pilnik Herman, Rubinetti Jorge, Mar del Plata 1971 It.